Am I the jerk for telling my girlfriend that my apartment is not her home? Submitted by Just Sayin 112. My girlfriend Jasmine and I are both 26. We'll be together for 2 years in July. We don't live together, however she moved in with me to quarantine. This is week 8 of Jasmine living in my apartment with me. We had originally looked at it as a trial period for actually living together. I've been working from home. Jasmine hasn't worked in almost a year, however her father pays her rent and I pretty much pay for everything else she needs. Before the pandemic she kept her days busy with yoga classes, exploring the city etc. But now all she does is loudly FaceTime her college friends. Smokes weed by noon and makes noise while I'm on work calls. Today I had an important call. I told Jasmine about it. Told her on Monday that it would be on Wednesday at 3 p.m. and practically begged her multiple times to be quiet during it because she usually isn't. She promised me she would stay in the living room. I work from the bedroom unless she wants to nap, so you can imagine how intensely irritated I was when she interrupted my call by coming into the bedroom and loudly screaming into the air that she's bored. Why would she come in and scream, "I'm bored," out loud during the call when I told her multiple times how important it was for her to be quiet during this call? During the call I ignored her cry of boredom despite it honestly humiliating me in front of my superior. She sounded like a child. I'm embarrassed that my girlfriend interrupted such an important call in such an unreasonable way. After I was done with work we spoke about it. She told me that since she's staying with me it's her home too and that I can't silence her for hours all day. I told her that her staying with me during a pandemic does not mean that my apartment is her home. I pointed out the fact that it is my name on the lease and it is me who pays the bills. I told her that if she wants to stay in my home she has to let me work so I can afford to live and provide for us both or else she has to leave. What seemed to hurt her was the fact that I said it's not her home. She's brought up that statement of mine multiple times now and has cried when talking about it. I don't regret what I said, but I do regret the fact that my words hurt her. At this point I don't know what to do. When you work your butt off to support a person who doesn't support your work it feels like a huge slap in the face. I don't know what to do and I don't know if I should feel like a jerk for shushing her all day, but I feel like she's put me in a really tough position.
Hi and welcome to my channel. My name is Elena. I'd like to thank you so much for joining me today. We're going to be discussing this Reddit post that captured my attention. So when I first read the post, I was very gung-ho and I agreed wholeheartedly with the poster. So did many people in the Reddit post. I think at the time that I read the story, it had over 9,000 upvotes. So we're not going to be discussing the man's point of view because obviously he had an overwhelming amount of support. So I thought that even I agreed with him. So like I said, he also had my support, but like I do, I overthink everything and I wanted to see what it was like from the woman's point of view because we don't just do things without a reason. Everything happens for a reason. Every action is taken because of some reason. So I wanted to think on why this woman who supposedly cares so much about this person that she's been with him for 2 years would act the way that she did after her boyfriend told her of the importance of this meeting. So this is the whole point of our video today, just to go into looking at both of their sides to see to speculate as to what could be their reasons for what led to the friction between the two of them. So before we get into the nitty-gritty of it, I'd just like to make a few disclaimers. First off, I'm renting a room, so I'm not in charge of any of the ambient sounds that you might hear. I'm using the tools that are available to me, so any squeaking, any sounds that you hear, I apologize. I don't have the ability to change or to improve at this point in time, so please forgive me. Second, I do not know the people in the story. I'm not judging them. This is just speculation. This is just an interesting study, if you will, that I just took into people's thoughts, and I just thought it would be interesting just to try and understand why people do the things that they do. And like I said, it's my personal thoughts, so please don't be offended. It's just what I think. You can either listen to it or not. Don't take it too seriously. Take it with a grain of salt. If you have an opinion on it, I'd be happy to hear it. If you don't, also that's fine. And that's about it. So we can get into the whole video now. Let me just double check that I'm recording, because I have a habit of forgetting to hit that record button. Yes, good. Okay. So if you hear clicking, it's because it's my computer. This is just very loose. I want to just make this into like just me having free thoughts. So any mistakes I make, it's fine, because I like to, I'm very much an overthinker. I overanalyze everything I do. So for me, just letting myself go is the hardest thing I've ever done. Everything else for the video I've been able to get done. Just the whole letting myself talk to the microphone, I leave that for last, because to me that's the scariest part, because it's the part that just has no planning. So it's so intimidating to me. So I do have some notes that I left, because I want to make sure that I have everything said, and regardless of whether or not I say it well or not, it's just going to be what it is, so that I can practice, because this is something that is so terrifying for me. So on the surface, my first thoughts were that yes, this man was not, he was NTA, and everybody else in the Reddit post agreed he was NTA. But then I started to think, there is more to this story. Let's look at the girl's perspective. There must be a reason why she did the thing that she did, and there must be a reason why this was bothering her so much, because in the story he said that she keeps crying, and people don't just keep crying. I know we're in some tough times, and those are clues. At the end of the story, he says, at this point, I don't know what to do. When you work your butt off, I kind of change some words around because I don't want to use the bad words and get in trouble. But when you work your butt off to support a person who doesn't support your work, it feels like a huge slap in the face. I don't know what to do, and I don't know if I should feel like a jerk for shushing her all day. But I feel like she's put me in a really tough position. This is a very me-centric thought, and I know that's a very hard position to get out of, because that's how human beings work. We focus internally, we focus on the self, because it is a survival instinct. You need to be able to focus on yourself to be able to keep yourself alive. Even in today's world where our life is not in danger as much, it is still something that is central to our position. So he cannot see the things that he's done that is affecting his girlfriend. So we're going to go through it, and we're going to see the problems that they've hit. So let's look at Jasmine. Jasmine's life experience. She's rich and pampered. She's come from a life of luxury. She's never paid for anything in her life. Her father paid for her apartment. She went from her father's house to her father paying for her apartment to living with her boyfriend. He even said he pays for everything. So her father pays for apartment, he pays for everything else. And then he's trying to explain to this kind of person that he's trying to explain to her about ownership. That is not something that someone like that can understand. To the average person, to the person like you and me, we understand that to own something means to either pay for it with labor or with capital. So you want something, you work for it, either by physically working for it or paying for it with money. We get that because that's how our world works. Somebody like her, who obviously comes from wealth, or at least upper middle class, that's not the life that she has lived. She doesn't know that life. She knows that she has her home, her family home. That's where her mom and dad lives. She has an apartment. That's her apartment. She's never paid for it, but it's still her home. And she has her boyfriend's home. She never paid for it, but that's where she lives. That's what she understands as home. Home has never meant paying. So when her boyfriend says, I pointed out the fact that it is my name on the list and it is me who pays the bill, what does that mean to her? That's not a life experience that she has. She moved from her house with her parents to her apartment to her boyfriend's house. She's never paid for any of that. How is he supposed to think that makes any sense to her? Of course, she doesn't understand that experience. Of course, to him, maybe he didn't come from wealth and so he understands that experience, but to her, that doesn't make any sense. Then he's expecting her to act outside of her character. This is not the kind of person who would be expected to be different. She comes from luxury. So a person who comes from that kind of life isn't given the opportunity. It's unfortunate to say, but she isn't given the opportunity to be better. She isn't given the opportunity to grow. They've known each other for 2 years, and it's not like he didn't know what kind of person she was. In 2 years, you cannot hide your personality for 2 years. The kind of person who would be able to do that, you need to be very worried. That's the kind of person who can hide bodies. So in 2 years, he would have had to know her personality. So it's not like he didn't know what kind of person she was, and he probably liked that before. But then we come to this situation with the pandemic, and he's expecting her to rise above. But people don't just rise above. People are taught to have that kind of behavior. But if you come from that life, you don't get taught that. People who expect people to act like that are taught to expect that. But she's not that kind of person who's going to just be better. You can't just expect somebody to do something they don't know how to do. It's like expecting me to be able to play a level 5 piano piece when I don't even know what keys are what on the piano. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. Now, let's look at how another big problem is that Jasmine is not handling the pandemic well. She's pretending, but even in this short piece, the signs are so clear. She's pretending. It's so clear. Anybody who looks at this can see that this girl she's scared. She's pretending, but she's obviously scared. She's trying to hide away from the world, and she's trying to pretend that nothing's changed. But it's obvious that she's scared. Like she's sleeping all the time, sign of depression. She's smoking weed, that's an escapism. I'm sure there are people who smoke because they enjoy it, but constantly doing it like that, that's a escape. She's trying to escape. Not only that, but okay, so in big life moments like these, people either they adapt or they break. The ability to adapt depends on your life experience. If you're given the opportunity to learn how to roll with the punches, how to land on your feet, when the big moments come, you are able to. If you are not given that opportunity, when the big moments come, you break. Some people will open their eyes and will run, and they will get up and they will fight, even when they're not given the opportunity to. But most people, they will go with the flow, and they will either break or they will adapt. The people who adapt are those who are lowest on the rungs in society. The poor, the middle class, people who come from broken homes, people who've been abused. It's sad to say, but it's because these are the people who are used to having to adapt, because they've learned to not just stand in one place. They've learned to stand on their toes and be ready to run and ready to fight. The people who can't adapt are the ones who are in the highest position in society, because they haven't learned things have always been good for them. They don't have that skill. And this young lady, she hasn't been given, even now in this moment, she's been shielded. She moved from one gilded cage to another. And even then, she's still feeling the pressure because she's hiding, trying to pretend everything's good, FaceTiming her friends and smoking and napping and talking loud and pretending everything is fine. But the signs are there, even subconsciously, the signs are there. She's scared. When you see somebody who's doing these things, and even then you could see even the weed is not working anymore, because now she's looking for comfort from her boyfriend by bothering him while he's working, by trying to get his attention. Now, not only that, he said that they moved in together as a test as to whether or not they would be able to live together, but he's not giving them a chance. This is a new level of the relationship. There's going to be growing pains. You gotta adjust. And the thing is, what human beings do in new environments is they test boundaries. Think of it as being blind. You're in a blind room. You need to know where the walls are. You go around and you push. We do it subconsciously. We don't mean to do it, but we do it subconsciously. So we'll do something really dreadful just to see how you will react. And then we can tell what kind of person you are. So she probably did it without even, like she did it without meaning to. It was like a subconscious test to see how he would react, so that she can know how she can adjust her personality to fit with him. So he said, this is important to me. So she did this to see how he would react. People do it all the time. Children especially do it all the time. They come into this world with no information, with no knowledge about how the world works. And they got to figure it out. So they test boundaries all the time so that they can learn about the world. And parents just let them do whatever. And then they learn that there are no boundaries. And then you have all these crazy kids. And people are like, why are my kids so crazy? Because when they were trying to learn what the boundaries were, you told them there were none. So she probably didn't even mean to do that. She was just, her brain was just trying to figure out how to fit in this new world, because they're probably like tiptoeing around each other trying to figure out how to make this work. And then there's a pandemic, so it's not even like they can leave because they're stuck. So this is where they should be communicating. They should be talking to each other. I've been thinking about this story a whole lot. It's so fascinating to me, because people make things so much more complicated. All you gotta do is talk. Each person has a different life experience. It's like words. One word might have a very similar meaning to you. While the definition is the same, the meanings might be slightly different. That's how life experiences are. To him, ownership meant one thing. To her, it meant something. She probably thinks a home is the place where people you love are, or maybe it's the place where you live is. To him, a home is the place where he pays the bills, and that's why she's crying. She's probably crying because she's sad. She's lonely. She's clearly a social person, and now she's stuck inside, and the amount of depression all the social people are going to be suffering from, it's not even a joke. People think it's the mental stress that all these social extroverts are going to be suffering. She probably needed somebody to go to. So what might seem obvious to one person, it doesn't mean that it's obvious to another. Instead of getting upset or tiptoeing around each other, you guys have been with each other for 2 years. Talk to each other. It's you shouldn't be afraid to talk to each other. She's crying because maybe she pushed the boundaries, and she pushed maybe a little too hard. Maybe she got an answer that she was not expecting. Maybe the boundary was a little too tough for her. But maybe this is good. Maybe this will open up the lines of communication, because I don't know, it's just because clearly everybody is against her. Like over 9,000 upvotes saying that she was basically the jerk in the situation, in which it wasn't a good thing that she did, interrupting this man's meeting with his boss when he told her that it was important. But people are very complicated. People are not just, we're not just simple. That's why there's so much struggle with mapping the brain, and that's why it's so hard for people for the scientists to cure this virus, because we're complicated. There's a lot going on inside us, and even sometimes we can't even control what we do. Like, we're like, why did I even do that? Why am I doing this? Who knows what regrets she went through when she did what she did. So I think that instead of him going to Reddit and trying to get validation for what he did, because you go to Reddit for confirmation. You know, these are the people who think like you do. Obviously, they're going to be on your side. They're your people. Instead of going there, because he clearly knows that he did something not right, because his conscience is eating at him, because she keeps crying. When somebody keeps crying, something's wrong. I think she's either going through some really, really strong depression, or something is definitely wrong. And he knows that. So instead of going to Reddit and trying to get validation from strangers, I think what should be happening is they need to talk. They just need to, like, really stop being afraid to talk to each other. Like, just talk, people. I don't know what's wrong with the world. Everybody's just so afraid of talking to each other. Just stop lying to each other and just talk. People just talk. It's words. We invented language. Oops, sorry. Sometimes when I speak, I like to hold things, and I was holding a pen. People are just so afraid to talk to each other. We invented language to communicate, and more we don't want to do that. It's just, I don't know why we're so afraid to talk to each other. You know, when you talk, it makes things so much easier. You get to understand the people so much better, because when people don't talk, when a person doesn't talk to you, you get to decide what you want about that person. And a lot of times what you think, it's wrong, because you can't think, you don't know what's in the head. A lot of times you can't even go there, because your brain doesn't work like this, and their brain works based on the experiences that they have. You can't even imagine the paths that their mind will take, because you have to live their life and have their brain. So we need to talk. Just stop fighting with each other, and let's start trying to understand each other. Stop assuming the person's out to get you. People don't care. People just, they're thinking the same thing. Just let's talk. Stop being afraid and let's talk. Just talk. It's not that hard. Just talk. Anyway, so that was what I was thinking about. It's just, I thought of this story, and I was just like, it seems so sad that everybody just said she was wrong, but there's more to the story. There's always more. Yes, what she did was not the right thing, but there is more. And she's being vilified on the internet without her knowing. And I thought at least one person should be in her corner, even though what she did was not the best, but there is a reason. And people should consider. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. If you like what you heard, I don't know why, but please take some time to hit the like button. Also, please subscribe for more. I will probably not do a lot of these Reddit ones, because I don't like really talking about real people, even though I don't know who they are. I feel uncomfortable about it. Maybe I'll do like once every now and then. I like to do more free thought. But hit the subscribe button. I post new videos every Monday to Friday. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Thank you. Bye.